right, good evening, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting to order at 6:31 p.m. Clerk, can I please get a roll call?
Yes, Commissioner Kennedy,
Present.
Commissioner Ilowachi,
Present.
Commissioner Lacioja,
Present.
Vice Chair Williams.
Present.
Thank you. Have a quorum with Council Member or Commissioner Mitchell and Chairperson Taylor out.
Thank you. Can we please stand for the pledge? Okay, thank you everyone for being here. Can I get a motion to approve the meeting minutes of November 3rd, 2025 and November 17th, 2025?
I'll move that we continue the meeting minutes of November 3rd and November 17th. I second.
Okay, oh, sorry, yes, continue. Yes, can I please get a vote? We can do a roll call vote.
Thank you. Commissioner Kennedy,
Aye.
Commissioner Ilowachi,
Aye.
Commissioner Lacioja,
Aye.
Vice Chairperson Williams.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes 4-0 with Commissioner Mitchell and Chairperson Taylor excused.
Okay, on to new business. We'll have Police Chief Joe Vihill's report out.
Good evening. Currently, the department is sitting at 86 sworn officers, with 1 on long-term military leave, 2 on injury leave. We have a recruit graduating from the police academy in 2 weeks, and we are trying to line up academy spots early next year for a handful of individuals who have accepted conditional job offers.
All right, is there any public comment?
We've received no public comment forms for this item.
Thank you. Commission discussion, please. Or any questions?
Chief, can you tell me the last part of what you just said? I didn't. You said that you were trying to line up how many? Sorry about that.
No, we're trying to secure academy spots for entry-level candidates who have accepted job offers.
How many are you looking?
As many as I can get.
Just curious, how is it looking so far, though?
Not good.
Really?
The academies are starting to go to hard cutoff dates for entrance. So they come through the hiring process with us. They get their conditional, then they have to do a medical. So for the academies, they'd like people with conditionals that already have their medicals done. So when you're still kind of waiting for the medicals, you hit that hard stop date for the academies, essentially you could lose your spot. So we have a host of people waiting for medicals. One academy starts next month, another one starts in February. So we're trying to reserve as many spots between both academies as we can, while continuing to utilize other academies outside the area.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
So if I understand correctly, the individual must pass the medical, the psychological evaluation before they can start the academy? Is that how it works?
Yeah, before they start working for us, yes. So they get a conditional when they finish the process, and the conditional is pending that they can pass the psych and the medical.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Kennedy, anything? You're good? You said we have 86 sworn, right? On
Correct.
patrol, okay. One long term, okay. All right. I don't think I have any questions. Thank you.
Welcome.
All right, we are going to move on to our next item, which is the National Association for Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement, which is NACOL, and we have all turned in our reports. But because Commissioner Kennedy turned in a report first last time, and I know she's anxious to read out, so would you like to go first?
Sure, I'm happy to go first.
Okay.
I think the NACOL conference was definitely a great experience for all of us. I think that the session on Sunday was incredibly beneficial. I think that a couple of the takeaways that I had in general was that in spite of how long a lot of these entities have been doing oversight, and some of them have been doing it for a very long time, there are always going to be consistent and ongoing challenges simply by the nature of the work. One of the other things that was, I think, reinforced on many occasions was the fact that aside from the scrutiny of police officers and their day-to-day work in general, that even the work of the oversight commissions is particularly scrutinized. They made the point that it's every decision, every vote, every conversation contributes to the perception of fairness and accountability. And I think the perception piece is something that we should all keep in mind, because people's perception is their reality. And I think that that's another important thing for us to take away. We were encouraged to adopt the NACOL Code of Ethics in addition to a Code of Conduct. I'll make a particular note of adopting the Code of Ethics, since that is something that was actually suggested to be removed from the current ordinance, that I think that that is something that we want to make a note of as we look moving forward on the ordinance revisions. One of the other things that they talked about is the fact that oversight is not about taking force away, but rather to ensure that officers are able to articulate why force was used and to ensure clarity and transparency on how they police. One of the other things that I think was very striking was that oversight is really more about a partnership versus being adversarial, and striving for collaboration and continual improvement should be the goal, as opposed to something that would be considered a gotcha process. That is not the intention. They talked about making sure that use of force is a 360-degree review, and looking for ways to emphasize learning and growth and ways to correct mistakes, again, as opposed to just a gotcha moment and just discipline and punishment. They talked about the importance of creating information. They talked about that we should contemplate creating some sort of handout on the commission that we get out into the community, whether it's lunch at a senior center, going to visit a barbershop or a Starbucks, or neighborhood watch meetings. Those are all ways that we can get out into the community. Again, they talked about some of the commissions that had challenges, Minneapolis being one of them, that they created their oversight commission. They held listening sessions and town halls to try to look for ways to create change. And in their case, they were stonewalled not just by the police department, but they were stonewalled by the community as well. And the thing that we, again, have to remember is that there's not a system that's perfect. It's all going to require practice and an ongoing effort. They also talked about in Tuesday's general session the challenge to creating oversight, and the fact that there are many jurisdictions that will create oversight but struggle to set it up. And then once an agreement is signed, members of the public expect instant change. And while consent decrees and memorandums of understanding or agreement have an ending, the critical step is to ensure ongoing commitment and the criticality of thinking outside the Department of Justice. Educating, engaging, 3 pillars of education, empowerment, and engagement are incredibly important. And the emphasis, and it struck me at our last meeting, the presentation that we had, I believe, from Michael, that when you are out doing this work, when you are out working with the public and dealing with the police department and those issues, that yes, you are going to fight, but you're going to fight out of love, not out of spite. Talked about the importance of building up assets in addition to things like a brochure or handout, things that are giveaways. I know Sergeant Fashner's working on some things as far as information, et cetera. They also emphasize partnerships matter, and those are going to be lots of different partnerships, and they're not going to just happen from 9 to 5. I also attended the social media session, which was incredibly interesting, and talking about how that social media is now the new version of the town square. And how it is a powerful tool, but it also has pitfalls. There are some of the oversight agencies that have their own social media presence, and in those situations, commissioners have to make sure that they don't mix their public and their private role in their personal accounts, and that's probably just kind of good practice in general. And in the current national climate, it's time to check personal accounts. Departments should have a social media policy and review it regularly. And being aware that there are sites and there are folks that are out there who are really doing nothing but looking for ways to create clickbait. You've got rampant AI that can be very, very damaging. Nobody fact checks TikTok ever. And then, let's see. One of the other things, and I'll just kind of wrap up here real quick, trying to identify who the best messengers are, who are the people that are going to be listened to, who are the people that are going to be respected, and that is not just in getting relationships built with the police department, but I think relationships with the commission as well. Also being mindful that policy is not the be-all and end-all. Culture is going to be critical. Oversight, if it has teeth, can decrease racial disparity when it has investigative authority and can recommend investigative findings, discipline, and changes in police policy. Building political capital by taking small steps and finding mutual points of interest is going to be critical. Community voice is going to be research, and they talked about the importance of educating the city council versus simply lobbying the council. The importance of bringing subject matter experts in to train, and I know we've all talked about that a little bit. But at the end of the day, successful oversight needs fairness, humanity, and an unbiased approach. There needs to be multifaceted voices and an interest in the community. Collaborative efforts between law enforcement and the community members foster trust, shared power, and accountability. We want to reimagine engagement, so at the end of the day, everyone is going home safe.
Thank you, Commissioner Kennedy. Commissioner Lacey Oha, would you like to report out next?
Sure. Thank you, Vice Chair. You know, I have prepared so much, but I know I
Give
don't
me 1
have all
second.
night long because we all have to.
Sorry, is that door open? I don't want the,
Yeah, all the doors are open. I think we have an issue with the locks.
okay,
So if I close them, no one can get in.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think the doors are just being kept open just to make sure
Want
that.
the vacuum picking up over the feed.
Yes, unfortunately, we've been having issues with the doors all day today, so.
Okay. Thank you. I just want to make sure.
So let me get started. First, I did not get the opportunity of attending the session on Sunday, October 26th. I was not included in that, but what I did on that Sunday, I had the opportunity of going to the site, the George Floyd Memorial site at East 38th in Chicago. And there I was able to take a tour of the actual site where the incident had occurred in May of 2000. And I had an opportunity to also meet George Floyd's aunt. And I had an opportunity to talk to her. And one thing we agreed is that George Floyd changed the world. And she also told me that people from all types of background had came to the George Floyd Memorial site. People from Australia and also business leaders dressed in suits had came to take a tour of the site. But what really impressed me the most was that the individuals who lived in this area all came together. And some of them are now business owners. So there was two gentlemen that took me on a tour, of a memorial site. It's called Say Their Names. And let me tell you, when I saw that, I got emotional because it had all the names of those individuals who had died due to police brutality and injustice. Emmett Till, you all may be familiar with Emmett Till. They had a site, a special marker for him. But let me get to the sessions that I attended. There were so many. But let me start off with what I saw on Monday, October 27th. There was a session with the mother of Philando Castile. Miss Castile, she gave an awesome presentation. And she also gave us some recommendations. And those recommendations were hosting listening sessions, hosting town hall meetings. And this is exactly what we've been discussing here with the APOC, with the commission, Antioch Police Oversight Commission. At the end, I had an opportunity to go to Miss Castile and let her know how much I admired her. And I got a photo with her. And I will cherish that photo forever. And that's a photo that I will be able to share with my grandchildren. And that did something to me, to be there in her presence and being a mother of two sons. Also, I had an opportunity of speaking with the former director of Minnesota Department of Human Rights. This former director, on June 1st of 2020, filed a charge of racial discrimination against Minneapolis Police Department, and it went back a 10-year period. Well, the results show that it was the culture of the police department that was the problem. So as a result, the city of Minneapolis was placed under a consent decree. So what's happening now, there is a settlement agreement. But the city of Minneapolis, everyone is watching this city because there have been so many police-involved incidents. So let me get to session number 2. I had the opportunity of sitting in on the session regarding abolishment of the community review boards. What really got me about, really struck me about this session was in the state of Florida, especially in the Miami-Dade area, 24 oversight commissions were abolished. And another thing that I also remember hearing was Miami-Dade cannot form a civilian oversight of law enforcement, but there can be a chief created oversight. So let me move on. There was a director that was present from the Nashville Community Review Board. And let me tell you, this Oversight Commission, they have their act together. They really do. You know, there were talks of abolishment of the review board. But the leaders of Nashville, along with the current oversight commissioners at that time, they fought back. They fought hard to keep this board. And as a result, the Community Review Board, it was abolished, but then it was reestablished 2 days later. It was abolished on October 26th of 2023 and reestablished on October 27, 2023. So I just thought that was awesome. And what I loved about it was they had support from the faith-based community. The faith-based community supported this community review board. I'm going to wrap this up because I have so much that I can talk about. But I wanted to go to another session that I attended. Talked about the police review board in Prince George County. I believe that's located in the state of Maryland. The gentleman there was at one time a consultant for the city of San Francisco after the high-profile incident of Mario Woods. And I was not living in the city at the time, but I do remember that clearly. But he gave us some advice. The advice was build credibility, build relationships with elected officials, establish a QR code for complaints, have a conversation with the police department, develop a task force, ask the community what works for them, make sure the mission stays the mission, be transparent, go into the community, talk about the benefits, and it is important to collect data and ask what is the purpose and what do the public need to know. Now let me go down to a very important session that I just thought that we possibly need to check into this. It was the officer created jeopardy. And let me explain what that is. Officer created jeopardy is when an officer puts themselves in danger and pull the trigger. There was an example here in Contra Costa County in 2018 of a officer created jeopardy. Also in San Francisco, there was an incident, and that was a very high profile incident, and it happened in the neighborhood that I grew up in. So I would just into this conference in all the sessions that I attended, and I'm so glad that I went, and I went because I needed to receive more information in order to be effective as a commissioner. But I also attended because I wanted to see how other oversight commissions operate, you know, how they function under the jurisdiction of local government. But I must say that the NACO conference was an eye-opener. based on my observations, we really don't have the power that is needed to be successful. And what I mean is, our ordinance only gives APOC limited power. These are my recommendations. My recommendation is that APOC establish a subcommittee to review Assembly Bill AB 847, schedule a presentation, and have a study session. And let me explain what AB 847 is. Gavin Newsom just recently signed a bill that will allow oversight commissions to have access to records. We do not have authority to request records. So if there is a police-involved incident, we will not be able to conduct our own investigations, nor make recommendations of police misconduct. With limited power, APOC cannot have a part in the complaint process by our community members who are depending on us to hold our police department accountable. That's my report.
Thank you very much. All right, Commissioner Eloquachi.
All right, so I attended several of the same courses, so what I'm going to do is focus on just a couple of them. And I attended the Board and Commission Forum, and I had some of the similar takeaways as you had. The one workshop that stood out for me was the one on artificial intelligence and law enforcement and civilian oversight, risks, challenges, and accountability. The facilitator was Nicole Armstrong. She's the Chief Finance Officer of San Francisco Department of Public Accountability, or Police Accountability. And this workshop was explosive. It was so explosive that is why I'm just focusing primarily on that workshop and then sharing with you some of my takeaways. So they had a panel up there, and these panelists, they were from Exxon and Salesforce, and they were all either like security experts and attorneys. They were on community engagement. They were dealing with operations and dealing directly with the police department in terms of sales of the product. And any questions that the police departments throughout the world and the country have, those are the guys that were dealing with them on a day-to-day basis. And they also were the guys that were dealing with any of their testing and beta testing and studies that they've done on their products. So what stood out to me that was shocking was, as we had these experts up there, Nicole asked some amazing questions, and I've included the questions that she asked, that every police department should be asking when they acquire this product or they're inquiring to do an RFP. They should ask these baseline questions. The citizens should be wanting to hear the answers to those questions as well, and APOC should know the answers to these questions, okay? So they got up there, and some of the questions had to do with how do they deal with mistakes when the software glitches? How does the Exxon or Salesforce, like in their report writing software, how does it deal with that kind of thing? And they really did not have good answers. So I'm not going to go into what the answers were or any of that stuff, but what I will say to you is this. We saw one person after the next go up there and ask a question, and they didn't have answers for it. Now, if the experts don't have answers, then we need to be cautious as we move forward with this technology. So what I was realizing, and I've said this before, is that we are, as taxpayers, we're simply funding our surveillance if we don't have answers to a lot of these questions. And we have to be cautious. Now, there are some things that came out of it. So if you can look at some of the questions on the back of my report that talks about it was, let's see, you know, asking questions like what data goes into the system, where exactly does it end up, what is the third parties process, do third parties process it, any of it used to train AI models. If you identify an error with the AI, does that correction go to training, improving the AI model? They talked about hallucinations. Yeah, they didn't have an answer for that one. How can public agencies responsibly use AI tools that are prone to hallucinations, which is false or misleading results generated by AI systems, often due to flawed training data or algorithms? It could be image recognition systems seeing non-existent objects, or language models producing nonsensical text, especially when the stakes involve public trust, legal accuracy, or civil rights. So humans have always got to be involved in this loop. Always have to be a part of it. So when there was a city council meeting, I think there was one, it was November 3rd. In that meeting, APD had given a report about several cameras in the city that were no longer functioning, and that they had an intention of purchasing new replacement cameras, and those cameras would be flock. And at our meeting, I forget when the city council meeting was about. Our meeting was the 3rd. Yeah, the 3rd. But they had reported that to the city council, so I brought it up to them in that meeting on the 3rd, and I asked if they had any data on the effectiveness in investigations, like if flock cameras being used, or any ALPRs, or any of those cameras being used, you know, how effective they are when it's being used for apprehensions, arrests, investigations, any of those things. And they didn't have data on that. So my next concern was, if you don't have data on that, how do you determine that you want to go ahead and buy more of something if you don't know how effective that something is? So there were questions that I had that I wanted to just briefly talk about, okay? So for justification on the purchase of those flock cameras or any type of camera, you got to be able to demonstrate the technology's efficacy, resource management, and adherence to privacy policies, okay? So case clearance rates, the number and percentage of cases where flock cameras provided critical evidence leading to an arrest or case closure. That's a question that APOC should be asking, the city should be asking, PD should be able to provide us with, okay? Crime type breakdown, data specifying which types of crimes, homicides, robberies, vehicle thefts, Amber Alerts, hit and runs, the camera helped to solve, and their impact on different crime categories. We also need to have answers to arrests and prosecutions, the total number of arrests made using flock data or these cameras data, the number of suspects identified, firearms or narcotics seized, and the outcomes of related prosecutions. Stolen vehicle recovery. We need metrics on the number of stolen vehicles located and recovered as a direct result of the system's alerts. Investigative leads. The number of times the technology generated significant investigative leads that otherwise would have been difficult to obtain. Specific case examples, concrete anonymized examples of critical incidents, kidnapping cases, where the cameras were essential to a quick resolution and community safety. The crime reduction statistics, while of course it's going to be difficult to really have that correlation, they should be able, APD should be able to at some point report overall crime rate changes within the camera protected areas, okay? And provide accompanying analysis to suggest any potential correlation or deterrence effect. Usage frequency, the total number of searches conducted by authorized personnel over a given period. User justification, the stated reason for each search. Specific criminal investigation, Amber Alert, traffic investigation. Demonstrating alignment with a clear policy and avoiding misuse like general surveillance of protests. And then cost-benefit analysis. They need to provide data showing how the camera system optimized law enforcement resources, such as reducing the need for high-speed chases or extensive manual detective work, thereby justifying the initial investment. And then ultimately us auditing and, you know, of course for PD be able to audit and also having oversight. So we know that it was mentioned that they will be purchasing more equipment. These are the things that we would love to be able to have for the citizens of the city and for APOC to be aware of this before those purchases take place. And I think we should be critical and an integral part of being able to get those answers. And that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about. And that was my key takeaway. Thank you.
Very thorough. Thank you very much. All right. Well, I guess I am next. So I put most of everything in my report that I thought was the most interesting, my key takeaways and reflections. But I do want to bring up, that's not in my report, is the fact that when you guys were talking about the George Floyd Memorial, and I, didn't put this in my report because it wasn't part of the conference, but it was a part of the conference's theme. So thought I'd just talk about it. And, yeah.
Because we got an opportunity to take a tour.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the package.
Yeah.
We wanted to all meet up together.
Oh, yeah, you might. Yeah.
What I was saying is that it was in the package, and it stated if we wanted to attend, just meet up at a specific time,
Yeah.
Specific date.
Yeah.
Yes.
I didn't. Yeah, I just thought, as I wrote about the George Floyd and the Philando Castillo in the first part of my report, there's the parallels. But I thought it was appropriate for me to bring this up, and part of visiting the memorial for me, it was a full circle moment for me because it re-triggered my activism bug. And so before 2020, a lot of people don't know that I was not doing the work that I'm doing now. And so because of that incident, during COVID, was not working at the time, but I started activating, my way of activism again. So it was a very, very emotional moment, just to be there with everyone and see everything that, just be able to feel that. I don't even know how to put into words. Like, that's why I couldn't really probably write about it either. It's just, it felt like it was like the time had stopped, really. It just put me back into that 5 years ago, right? To that moment. So it was a full circle moment. I probably wouldn't be doing this work today if that incident didn't happen, unfortunately. Like, that's how I feel about it, and that's why it's a really interesting way for me to kind of be compared to where I'm at now. You guys know what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
Yeah, it's just still getting a little tongue-tied talking about it, but
And I'm sure emotional, because I know
Yeah.
I was emotional.
yeah, it was
And
heavy.
I think about it every time I think about being there. I get emotional about it.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a very empowering moment. Also, just reminded me to continue the fight, and that the work I'm doing is for something, and everyone else that has gone through a lot who didn't get the same publicity as this incident. And that's what kind of took me to the opening session where Philando Castillo's mom spoke about how, George Floyd was the one that everybody talks about. Far fewer people knew about Philando. And even though I remember, it wasn't as televised. So her testimony definitely was grounded, and it just made me realize the cost of human life due to failures of accountability. I don't want to go through my whole report, but it's there if y'all want to look at it. Those of you at home, I feel like we have kind of said a lot of the same things tonight. But I will say my last part, since it wasn't mentioned, my final the final panel I sat in, because kids are not just miniature adults, supporting community oversight and accountability for law enforcement's treatment of youth. And so Michelle Gross from Communities United Against Police Brutality and Shelley Jackson from Strategies for Youth offered powerful insights into youth interactions with law enforcement and the broader school-to-prison pipeline. We discussed how Black and brown youth are often treated as adults in the eyes of the system, which leads to harsher outcomes and long-term trauma. And I remember Susan and I sat in this panel where I raised a lot of questions because it kind of touched home on a lot of the work I've done with youth in the past, and where I see the future of our country going is based on how we treat our youth. And so I raised the example of the Central Park Five and how years of those young men's lives were stolen due to the corruption and the systemic failure. And we discussed stop and frisk, Miranda rights, youth interrogations, and the use of force against minors, because normally we're seen as older, black and brown youth, we're seen as older in the eyes of the public, in the eyes of the system, of the justice system. So this, like I mentioned, this panel mattered to me deeply because the youth are our future. And when young people are criminalized, traumatized, or killed by law enforcement, the ripple effect impacts entire generations. And despite how bleak things look for certain communities, knowing that organizations like Strategies for Youth exist gives me the optimism I need. With more outreach, training, and national attention, we can protect our youth and break cycles of harm. And the rights of young people are critical. These encounters can shape the rest of our lives if not handled with care. The trauma can last a lifetime. And so I brought that up as the most important takeaway because I kind of learned so much during this conference, but that's the one that stuck the most. And those are some of the things I kind of want to bring back to Antioch around how we get youth into spaces where they can feel safe and not be afraid of law enforcement, and also into the pipeline, not to prison, but into good paying jobs, or go into civic engagement, be on commissions like we are, go become a city attorney or things like that, or a police officer who's trained in, uplifting the community they grew up in and things like that. So I'll keep it real short. My takeaways from visiting the state of Minneapolis, I'll be remiss if I didn't say that. It's Prince's hometown, and I'm a huge Prince fan, so it was really cool to walk into some of those spaces and see like the memorial and the place where they shot Purple Rain. And so I'll end on that high note there. Thank you all.
And it's also the home of Minnesota Timberwolves, and I had an opportunity to go to a game.
That's correct.
Others.
That's correct. And so, I think that's it. Let me get back to the... Okay.
So are we done talking on this, or?
Yeah, we're going to move on to the next item, but before I get to that... Oh, I'm sorry. Any public comments? Just got to ask.
Yes, we have not received any public comment cards.
Okay. Commission discussion.
Well, I just wanted to say that this conference was a I wouldn't say life-changing experience, but I have been to many memorial sites. But the George Floyd Memorial Site will be something that is top of my list. It's number one on my list. But I also wanted to add that I found out about the background of policing in Minneapolis. And one evening as I was in the hotel room, I started to do my own research. And there were so many police-involved incidents going all the way back to the probably the mid-'70s. And what really got me the most, until I kind of choked up, most of the individuals who were harmed, who died as a result of the police-involved incident, were youth. They were young people. So as a result, a grassroots movement was organized in the 1980s. And it was for the Civilian Review Authority Board. So I didn't know all of this information until I attended this conference. What I also wanted to say, and I'm going to be quiet, is that I also attended a session regarding the body-worn cameras. The body-worn cameras. And what I do remember, it was stated as a result of the body-worn cameras, the police-involved incidents in New York, for example, had decreased. Before then, there were possibly, I believe, if I heard it correctly, I may have it wrong, but there were over 600 and something police involved incidents. This is in the state of New York. Once again, the outcome, because of the body-worn cameras, the outcomes has greatly, significantly improved. And also, we were told that the state of California, in the state of California, body-worn cameras is not a public record, only in critical incidents. One example was Los Angeles County. There was an incident that occurred. Public records was requested. And it was requested in December of 2024. In September of 2025, there was no response. So I'm just going to end my statement on that note. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay. I'll also say that I was able to use one of the two of the Axon tasers, which was more intense than I thought it would be. Really loud. I don't know if you guys had an opportunity to go into the breakout room that they had and shoot the, I think it was the 8 series and the 10 series. Am I right about that? Yeah, that was loud, but pretty cool how it works. I wouldn't want to use that on anybody, to be honest. Okay, so we're gonna move on to our next agenda item, which is discussion item 2026, Antioch Police Oversight Commission goal setting. So this item is not going to make very much sense to be discussed tonight if we don't have city staff here, our city manager, and other directed staff to work on this. So I just feel that we would need a professional facilitator for this specific item. So I would move to table this item until our next meeting on January 5th of the new year. That is my motion. Can I have a second?
Okay.
Oh, is there a comment?
I was going to say, can I offer I don't know if it's exactly an amendment, but a suggestion is, I do agree that having a complete discussion of this makes sense when we've got the full commission here. I do think that there are some broad things we could look at tonight, because we've got 2 ad hocs that have submitted documentation for some goals for 2026, and that have also talked about some accomplishments. And I think that there are some general conversations that we could have related to some of the items here, so that we can more effectively discuss it whenever that time comes, if that is amenable or if that makes sense.
I thank you, Commissioner Kennedy. I understand 1,000% what you're saying, and I'm looking at some of these. I would agree with you, except the fact that I think the whole commission should be here to discuss that as a whole with city staff, just because it is a robust item on here, and I want to make sure that we retouch all of those without having to go back to it and put it back up. And then also, seeing that we have a light agenda tonight on our ad hoc committee report out, we can just give it a little bit more time to maybe talk about some of those things you suggested.
That's fine.
Okay, excellent.
And I would just say, before you take a vote to table this, I think it may be advisable to open it up to public comment, just to see if there's anything there. So then, if there is a public comment, they could possibly sway you to some other way.
Okay.
May I add?
Sure.
Vice
Thank you,
Chair?
Kevin.
I was looking at line item 4-3B, APOC work areas per the ordinance. Well, I'm going to always talk about the ordinance. And you know, and I believe we are making the right decision tonight to table this to our next meeting because, going back to what I talked about at the last meeting, on November 17th, we got a new assembly bill
Yeah.
that will take effect on January 1st. And I went back and viewed the ordinance before I came here, and we look at it, if we go to 4-31110 powers and duties and look at J, line item J, it says request and review data from public records of the Antioch Police Department as needed. So it's like, okay, I have some questions. I have many questions. So, and I believe that this probably will, this may, how do I want to put the words, my words? This may warrant a study session. ABA 47 study session.
Yeah, you mentioned that
Yes.
in your report from
So
NACOL.
thank you for, tabling this for us.
Pardon me, Chair. Is the intent to table or postpone this item?
It would be postponed till January 5th.
Thank
Right.
you.
So before we do that vote, like our city attorney said, we should ask for public comment, even though, Manjeet?
We've received no forms for public comment.
Thank you. Okay, I will move, if anyone wants to move it to, okay, I'll move to post. Yes. I move to postpone the discussion item 2026 Antioch Police Oversight Commission goal setting. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we please do a vote?
Commissioner Kennedy,
Aye.
Commissioner Elawachi,
Aye.
Commissioner Lacey Oha,
Aye.
Vice Chairperson Williams.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes 4-0 with Commissioner Mitchell and Chair Taylor excused or absent.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to general public comment. Items that are not on the agenda.
We've received no public speaker forms.
Thank you. Okay, we can move on to item 6, our ad hoc committee report out. We'll start with Commissioner Elaquachi. You can do policies and practices. Yeah, and then in your other ad hocs. Oh, your mic. Thank you, Commissioner Kennedy.
So we haven't had when was the last time we did a policy and practice? Was it last week?
It was last Thursday. You had to jump off early.
Oh, okay, that's what it was. Did you take notes on that one? 'Cause I didn't. Okay,
I took a few.
all right then.
But we can't really talk about those because they're not really public yet. So we did meet. We met
Yeah.
with Lexipol, our city
APD.
and APD, and our monitor. So we can say that.
I can say that so far, I think we've completed the use of force policy, not fully vet it, but just say that we've gone over some things. We can, the ones that are within the ordinance, we have definitely focused on those and made some edits to those as well. But, we keep having to come back to some, and I'm really not that prepared to go into detail on this because I don't know
That's
what I can
okay.
actually say and what I can't say on that one. So, next time we'll have a little more
Yeah.
full-throated
We'll
response
be ready
to it
in the new year. Yeah.
in the new year. That'll be better.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Move to my right, Commissioner Kennedy.
So just real quickly, the community engagement ad hoc pulled together a list of the accomplishments for 2025, goals for 2026, and also some recommendations. Probably the biggie for goals for 2026 is to pursue the options for a launch event, continue to flesh out a communications plan, and just a reminder to folks that that draft was in the November 17th meeting packet. So if folks want to take a look at that and offer suggestions or edits, that would be great. Continue to attend events and gain insight into what's important to members of the community as it pertains to non-biased policing. Pursue opportunities for APOC to be more visible and to identify the trusted messengers in various communities to help raise awareness that APOC exists and what its role is. And then recommendations are to create some sort of graphic or logo that can be used for long-term branding, work to hold more events and listening sessions outside of the formal City Hall setting, and to look for ways to advertise our meetings via the city's social media channels in addition to the required meeting notices.
Which ad hoc was that for? I'm sorry.
Community engagement.
That was for us. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Thank you. And we are meeting this week as well.
Yes. Friday.
Friday. Yes.
And then just a reminder from the commission readiness ad hoc that folks receive the link to complete their ethics training. And also Monday, January 26th, we have our first training with APD.
Okay, thank you for that reminder. And be sure to do the ethics training, okay? That myself included. Do we do public comment on ad hoc report out? No? Okay. If that is all, we can move on to upcoming future agenda items.
I'd like to see us discuss the possibility of having what I would call a retreat for the commission. The city council does one of these, I believe, on an annual basis, and this is an opportunity to have, while it is publicly noticed meeting, I think it's an opportunity to have a little bit more of an informal discussion about goals and objectives, as opposed to, doing it here on the dais where we really don't get to look at each other very well, and we're sort of just out into the ether. The other thing that I would like to suggest is, and this goes back to the ordinance, some of the points that Commissioner Lacey Oha made, but we do know that Councilmember Freitas requested a study session be placed on their agenda. I would like to encourage commissioners to go back to that July 7th meeting and to some of the subsequent meetings where some suggestions were made for items to be included in the ordinance, so that there can be a fully compiled list, so that when the time comes for that to take place, we have solid information that we can share. And some of the items that I think, came up with or came away with from NACOL, like adopting the Code of Ethics, looking at the fact that AB 847 has been adopted at the state level, and what changes might be appropriate or necessary so that we are in compliance with those laws and those changes.
Thank you. So I have a possible retreat for the commission, informal discussion, goals and objectives, and then a discussion around council and commission study session, and then Code of Ethics, AB 847.
Well, it would probably be more specifically an opportunity to review all of the suggestions and recommendations that commissioners made at the July 7th meeting, and some meetings after that fact to be included in the ordinance or concerns that were raised, so that all of that information can be compiled and that the commission is prepared to be able to share that with the council when the time comes.
Okay, I understand. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, if we wanted to do a full commission retreat,
Can I just add to that?
excuse me, 1 second. Yeah,
I'm sorry.
go for it.
If a retreat is approved, I would like us to see if we could get someone to come in and do a presentation on officer-created jeopardy. There's a gentleman in the city of, the Sonoma County who was one of the presenters. So I believe that this is a topic that needs to be addressed, needs to be discussed, because we did have an incident that happened here in Contra Costa County, I stated before, in 2018. And I mentioned the incident that happened in San Francisco, in the neighborhood where I grew up in. When I was in this session, it was kind of mind-boggling to me. And we saw a couple of videos of how the incident all transpired. So I just wanted to make that recommendation.
Okay,
Vice
so
Chair.
that'd be more of like just creating an agenda for the retreat.
Yes.
Okay, and so my question to Mr. City Attorney, if we wanted to have a 7-person commission retreat, how would we go about that with the Brown Act rules and all?
It would have to
that.
be noticed as a special meeting.
But we wanted to do it not in the public, right? Is that what you're suggesting?
It can be done off-site.
Okay.
That's,
If 7 of you are going to be there, there's no option to do it not in the public. So if it's off-site, it would have to be at a location that is open and available for the public to come and view the retreat if they so wish.
Okay, can I ask a
so
question?
just to be clear, it can be held, which I believe the council retreats have occasionally been held, somewhere other than the council chambers. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so if I heard you correctly, we can have it off-site with just the APOC commissioners, right, without the public attendance. Okay, so you're saying that the public must attend our retreat?
If
It must
there-
be open to the public?
If there is a quorum, so if there are at least 4 commissioners present, and you are going to be discussing commission business, which it seems like you would be, this would be a retreat for you to discuss commission business, then it must be open to the public.
Well, I don't see talking about involved jeopardy is a discussion, it's a presentation, which I would like to see included at our retreat.
I think that we've got kind of 2 separate tracks here. One is whether a retreat can be held off-site, and that it would need to be a publicly noticed meeting and the public would be welcome to attend. The content would be something separate. So the content, we may choose that this is a place where we discuss something more along the lines of item 4-3, and then we look at some of these other presentations, and I know you've suggested the chief, or either the current or the former chief from Berkeley and some other folks. I think that we look at some of those presentations through the lens of whether those are appropriate from a training standpoint or some other environment. It may or may not be at the retreat.
Well, the officer-involved jeopardy, I believe it is something that we should consider. Yes, the police chief from UC Berkeley, great. I tried to reach out to her this week. I finally got a direct number to contact her. But I believe that we should take this topic that I suggested into high consideration.
I agree. Oh, I just want to clarify that we're talking about having a retreat not in front of the public. Okay, because that's not possible.
You cannot have a retreat that is not open to the public. If there is a gathering of at least
I
four
understand.
members of the commission, it doesn't matter what you're talking about. I mean, if there were to be a gathering and say there were, and just theoretically, of course, if there's a gathering of four people, there's kind of the presumption that there may be a discussion that comes up. So to avoid Brown Act problems, I would advise against gathering gathering in a quorum for pretty much any reason.
But
Now,
can you show us
Let's look.
anywhere, can you provide us with that in writing, that we cannot have a retreat without, I guess, posting it? And is there something in writing? Because
yes,
what
the
other
Brown
question-
Act.
The
That's
Brown,
the Brown Act.
Brown Act.
Yeah.
but this is a retreat, so.
No. So
So
the
the Brown Act,
I
if I sorry, if I
Sure.
may.
Uh-huh.
The Brown Act governs the conduct of any legislative group, any commission, any advisory committee that's advising the city council or anything like that. It basically, it regulates the conduct it regulates the conduct, so it regulates your communications, it regulates what you're allowed to talk about, it regulates the way in which you talk about the business. If there is a meeting between a quorum, and if there's any discussion of anything related to the business of the committee, the commission, anything of that nature, that includes presentations, that involves trainings, that involves anything. It must be open to the public because the Brown Act, the whole idea behind it is transparency. If there is a quorum there, it means that there is enough people there to come to there could be a discussion that could lead to the coming of a decision on some type of action that's going to be there. And the public has a right to know what information you are receiving in order to come to that. Now, if there isn't a quorum, the whole idea behind it is like, if there's not a quorum, then if you want to talk about it, you have to get together in a quorum, then there'll be an open meeting, and then that information will come out that way.
right. And so just before I let you go, Commissioner, yes, Lisa. Commissioner LaQuachi. I understand the Brown Act, so I was just trying to get an understanding of what my Commissioner Lacey Oha was saying, and I wanted to remind her that the Brown Act is what we are following as an appointed body of officials. So, what my clarifying question was so like you said the council met for a retreat, but how did they? What was their scope of that retreat, and how did they? I know it wasn't a worker. I'm just saying, like, how were the five able to meet?
I believe that if there was a retreat, I believe it was a publicly noticed meeting. That's what's necessary. So
Okay.
it would have to be, so for example, if let's just say, for argument, you want to have a meeting at one of your houses, you would have to be willing to open your house to the public.
To the public, of course.
If there's going to be a quorum there, it has to be a publicly noticed meeting. If there were to be a presentation given to an ad hoc, that could be done. As long as it's not a quorum, then that ad hoc could report out on what that was.
Okay.
But the whole point of the Brown Act is avoiding having a majority of a group there in an area where they can do some type of business without having the public have the right to see what's happening.
Which is why we have our ad hocs, because they're not a quorum. So, Commissioner LaQuachi.
I just wanted to say that I'm looking at a retreat a little bit differently than we're kind of discussing. But it's really kind of a team building session to bring us together so we can all be of one accord for the most part. We understand what our goals and aspirations are. And that if we have to notice, which makes sense to me, that we do have to notice, if we're putting on this agenda that, APOC will be doing a team building session, a retreat, it'll be at this location on this particular day, and these are the topics of discussion that we're going over, that's noticing. Now, we don't have to we don't invite anybody to these anyway, this is open to the public. So I think we should be okay. I think we're going to be okay.
Okay, so thank you, our city attorney, appreciate that. So we have an idea, so we will have a retreat open to the public. I don't think we have the benefit of closed session, am I correct?
No, you do not.
Okay, thank you. So anyone else would like to add anything to next year's agenda?
I just want to say that for additional items, like the items that we're supposed to be going over for the future, if we can just go over our list that we have every time that we do this, if we can make a request that that list is available for each session that we have. And then we can add on to that from there. Thank you.
Understood.
And Vice Chair, this is my favorite word, AB 847. I know that we are going to be having a discussion in less than 24 hours, but is there a possibility to have someone to come in and do a presentation?
We can talk about that for a future agenda item, yes.
Thank you.
I think it's great. My suggestion would be that before we have a presentation in this environment on AB 847, that we have a clear understanding of any changes that might be made to our ordinance as a result of that legislation, so that we're not putting the cart before the horse. I think it's not fair to the commission, it's not fair to the department, it's not fair to the public to come in and to have somebody do a presentation on AB 847 until we know the actual impact it's going to have on this body. Because currently the way our ordinance is written, there is nothing that I can tell that really aligns with the authority that AB 847 is supposed to give. And so I think that we need to be very clear about how it's going to impact us and our ordinance, and that we kind of do it in order, as opposed to something that's going to set up people's perception before it's in the ordinance and we're allowed to utilize the authority that that legislation could give.
I understand that, and I think having a presentation is harmless. I think that we're not going to change anything in the moment or try to amend our ordinance, but I wouldn't say we would be putting the cart before the horse, because we're just getting more knowledge of it, I think. I think if we do this, it's education for the public to understand what it fully is, and if we do go that direction, I feel like there will already be some acknowledgement of it, and as a body, we could decide on that by working with our council.
And then also, Vice Chair, if our staff want more information, then if they want to go more in depth in it, then maybe we can have a study session on it. I made that recommendation at
Yeah,
my report.
I believe that's completely harmless, and I think that it's probably good public education as well. Okay, I see that we have a public comment.
Thelma Wilson. Sorry.
Good evening. I do want to just go back and touch base on the topic, because definitely you all are here working for and doing this work for the public. And so the Brown Act definitely does apply to retreats. And in listening to the conversation on the retreat, I immediately went to team building. And I think Commissioner had already spoke to that, but I think that's where that would go. And you want the public to be engaged, because you're doing this work for the public. You're the representation of the public, just like the elected officials, our council and our state senate and governor, everybody. You know, you all are working for the public. And so it's important that there is a buy-in from what the public also wants to see, because you're the ones that were selected to oversee what you all are doing as a commissioner. So I do want to just put that out there, and to also say thank you for being and willing to continue to step up and to do the work. And I hope that we can continue to operate in a spirit of transparency, and knowing that we all are learning, forever learners. And thank you to Antioch Police, who's out here doing the work. I've seen the work. Let us not be a community like Stockton and be rocked at a child's birthday party that's hard on that police department right now. That's hard on all of those that are affected and around that. So let us continue find ways to be more cohesive, more collaborative, and definitely the public wants to know and be invited and to help, because again, we're all learning and we're in this together.
Thank you. Any more public comment?
We have no other speakers to this item.
Okay, thank you. Any more discussion on future agenda items?
I got a lot of feedback from the last time we had our meeting, the last meeting we had, and I believe that we need to keep that momentum going and possibly start discussing where we're going to have our next, future meeting off-site, the venue, what venue would be appropriate, for APOC. Many were very impressed, and they believe we should have more meetings outside of City Hall.
Yeah. Yeah, just a reminder, per the ordinance, I think it's only 2 places, but if that's something we can amend in the future, that'd be great, if the public wants that. City Attorney?
I believe the ordinance says at least 2.
At
so,
least 2. Oh,
there
at least 2.
There
Right.
could be more. The only kind of caveat I would put in there is just something for everybody to keep in mind, just to ensure that it's a place that does not have a definite time period as for when the meeting has to end, because having a set ending time for the meeting is a possible Brown Act violation.
Yeah, thank you.
Because that it could lead to certain items not being covered or being covered in some type of abbreviated manner. So
Yeah.
that's just something to keep in mind when assessing places for outside meetings.
Thank you for the reminder. Okay, thank you all. We're going to move on to our next agenda item. Commissioner report out. Let's keep it to 3 minutes if we can. If not, we had a short agenda tonight, so you don't have anything? Okay. Commissioner Kennedy? Okay. Okay. And then Commissioner Lacey Oha?
Well, all of you know, I have partnered with Bread of Life Ministries, and I'm a part of their food delivery on Tuesdays. And Bread of Life, which is part of Light Ministries on West 6th Street, have opened up they had a grand opening recently. So they're feeding the hungry. I just wanted to let everybody know that help is needed for food deliveries and to be part of serving the community. So it's getting close to the holidays, and so I just ask that, if we could find some time out of our busy schedule and give back to our community. If you want to come and help me, it would be greatly appreciated.
Do we just let you know?
Yes.
Okay.
And how often does this?
My slot is on Tuesdays.
Tuesdays.
Yes.
Bread of Life. Is that local? Bread of-
Yes, it is, in the city of Antioch.
Okay, so I'll just report out that during the Thanksgiving holiday, I partnered with the local NAACP to hand out turkeys to families on Friday before the holiday. We used the Lift Up Contra Costa office where I work, and also on that following Wednesday, I handed out boxed Thanksgiving dinners with Councilwoman Taurus Walker over in the Sycamore Square Plaza. We used one of the clothing boutiques to house some of those most of those boxes. We had about 50, and I think at the end of the day, they had gotten rid of all of them. So shout out to our Assembly member, Avila Farias, and Councilwoman Tamisha Taurus Walker for getting that done for our community in need. And I think that's it. You guys are good? Public comment? Hello.
I bet you didn't know what today was, and what today reflects. But happy Rosa Parks Day. on December 1st, so many years ago, she took a bold stance for freedom, for justice. So thank you, Sister Rosa Parks. That's all I want to say.
Thank you. Staff communications? Or there's no staff here, so.
I don't believe there are any.
Thank you. Okay, well, I guess we'll see you guys all next year. Okay.
And just a reminder, and you guys correct me, if we have anything to submit for ad hoc reports or anything to be included in that December 6th agenda, the 22nd of December is going to be the day that they want that to accommodate
December 30th.
the holiday schedule. That's a Monday.
What day? I'm sorry.
Monday, December 22nd
22nd.
is the deadline to
What's the latest? What time?
5 o'clock.
5 p.m.
5 o'clock.
Okay, thank you for that. I guess our next meeting will be in the new year, January 5th at 6:30, and that will be here at City Hall. I would like to wish you all a happy holidays and a happy new year. I'm sure I'll see some of you before then, but can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A second.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
Thank you.
Please have a roll call.
On that motion, Commissioner Kennedy,
Aye.
Commissioner Alaquachi,
Aye.
Commissioner Lacioja,
Aye.
Vice Chair Williams.
Aye.
Thank you. Your motion passes 4-0 with Commissioner Mitchell and Chair Taylor absent. The time is 7:53 p.m.
You're that gavel.
We are adjourning at 7:53 p.m. Thank you, City Clerk.